Live from Washington, this is BBC News. Mediators continue to urge restraint after the heaviest exchange between Israel and Hezbollah since the Gaza war began. A British man working for the Reuters news agency has been killed in Ukraine after a Russian missile struck a hotel. And Germany says the man arrested after a mass stabbing on Friday is a suspected member of the Islamic State group. Hello, I'm Carl Nasman. Welcome to the program. The Middle East remains on edge tonight after Sunday saw one of the biggest exchanges between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah since the Hamas-led October 7th attacks. Israel said it bombed Hezbollah rocket launchers across more than 40 different sites in southern Lebanon in what it called a preemptive strike. Hezbollah fired hundreds of missiles into Israel in retaliation for last month's killing of a senior commander. Sirens were later heard in Tel Aviv after Hamas fired a rocket at the city. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on Sunday urged all parties in the region to de-escalate after talks in Cairo to reach a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas ended without a breakthrough. Our senior international correspondent Lucy Williamson sent us this report from northern Israel. Hezbollah did say that its initial phase of the attack is over and did not intend its missile attacks on Israel to lead to a full-scale war. The group said it had delayed its action, hoping indirect peace talks between Israel and Hamas would lead to a ceasefire in Gaza. Orla Guerin reports now from southern Lebanon. For more, I'm joined in the studio by the director of the Middle East program at the Wilson Center, Marissa Karma. Thank you so much for coming in to speak with us. What do you make of what we've been seeing here, this exchange between Israel and Hezbollah?
Well, this was the retaliatory attack by Hezbollah that everybody has been waiting for the past few weeks. Since the assassination of Fouad Shukr in Beirut, the region has been on hold, and particularly after also the other assassination of Ismail Haniyeh in the heart of Tehran. So there was a lot of panic today around the region. You've heard many leaders talk about de-escalation and the risk of a regional war. But it seems that Hassan Nasrallah, in his speech right after the attack, has kind of alluded that for now, it is over.
Yeah, he said that first phase is over, really seeming to kind of put those messages out there that they didn't want this to be much bigger than it was. I mean, do you agree with that? Do you see any sort of calibration on both sides here in the way that Israel responded and maybe some of the targets that Hezbollah chose? It seems like there weren't really any major civilian targets on its list.
And he was interestingly very clear about that in his speech. He said, we wanted to protect Lebanese civilians, and so we did not attack any civilian targets, and kept on zooming into the intelligence and military targets. It's always a war of words with Hassan Nasrallah because the narrative part is very important as well. But we've also heard reportedly that there have been also some messages going back between Israel and Hezbollah, emphasizing yet again that both do not want to see an all-out war.
We also heard from U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin today ordering two pretty major aircraft carriers in the region to stay there. We've seen Secretary of State Antony Blinken make multiple trips to the region. What do you make of the U.S. role militarily and diplomatically in trying to keep whatever response we see here as small as possible?
Well, I think that the U.S. goal of holding everything at bay the way that we've seen so far is critical. And we've seen intensive rounds of diplomacy, a lot of back channels as well with Iran, which is, of course, the main patron of Hezbollah, Hamas, and other groups around the region. But it is critical that the United States also show force or a show of force through its military presence. This is critical for deterrence, and I think this has been very well established.
The U.S. also working very hard on these ceasefire talks, again wrapping up today without much success. Hamas saying it's rejected some new Israeli conditions. What effect, if any, do you think this latest round of fire on the border will have on those ceasefire talks? Well, a British man working for the Reuters news agency has been killed in Ukraine after a Russian missile struck a hotel. Ryan Evans was a former British soldier and had been working as a safety advisor. The attack happened late Saturday night in the city of Kramatorsk. A Reuters crew filmed emergency workers searching for their colleague there. 6 of their team members were inside that hotel when it was hit. 2 were hospitalized. Reuters said in a statement, "We send our deepest condolences and thoughts to Ryan's family and loved ones. Ryan has helped so many of our journalists cover events around the world, and we will miss him terribly." The Russian Defense Ministry did not respond to Reuters' request for comment. Russia, meanwhile, continued to bomb infrastructure across Ukraine on Sunday. Multiple civilian casualties were reported. And within its own territory, Russia says it's sending more artillery to the Kursk region. That's where thousands of Ukrainian troops are occupying territory. Ukraine's president said Sunday that the army advanced another 3 kilometers into the region. Well, joining me live now is retired Colonel Brendan Kearney of the U.S. Marine Corps. His last assignment was as Chief of Staff of the U.S. Marine Corps forces in Europe and Africa in Stuttgart, Germany. Welcome to BBC News. What do you make of this incursion by Ukraine that's been taking place over a couple of weeks now? Has it been more successful than what you anticipated? Well, German prosecutors have named the man suspected of Friday's mass stabbing at a festival in the town of Solingen that killed 3 people and injured 8 others. They said Syrian national Issa al-H is suspected of being a member of the Islamic State group. As is normal in the German legal system, they haven't specified his surname. The suspect turned himself in late on Saturday and admitted to the crime. He appeared in front of German prosecutors earlier on Sunday. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. You're live with BBC News. The messaging app Telegram says its founder and chief executive has nothing to hide after he was arrested in France. Pavel Durov was detained when his private jet landed in Paris on Saturday. He's accused of failing to moderate content or to cooperate with investigations into the use of the platform by criminals. Telegram says that the claims are absurd. Will Vernon has more. Tens of thousands of Rohingya refugees have rallied in camps in Bangladesh calling for an end to violence and a safe return to Myanmar. It comes on the 7th anniversary of the brutal military crackdown in Myanmar's Rakhine state, which forced hundreds of thousands of Rohingya Muslims to flee their homes. More than 1 million of them are still living in squalid camps in southern Bangladesh with little prospect of returning home. In recent weeks, fighting has escalated there, with thousands more Rohingya believed to have fled.
Life as a refugee feels like a life of slavery, and we don't want to continue living this way. Our future vision is to return to our country, live in freedom, and enjoy equal rights and justice, just like everyone else in the world.
Well, Ukraine's team at the Paralympics, which begin this week, will be hoping to continue its remarkable success story. They finished near the top of the medal table at recent Paralympics, but their preparations have been badly affected by the war with Russia, with many athletes having to train abroad. Our sports correspondent Andy Swiss reports. Well, before we go, take a look at this. Minette Bailey from Suffolk marking her 102nd birthday by doing a skydive for charity. There she goes. This was actually the first time that she'd ever done one. Speaking to the BBC, she said she doesn't do fear. Stay with us. Plenty more coming up on BBC News.